All right, we're recording. Welcome to
Like
the college.
now?
Yes.
Oh, did I speak? Okay, I'm sorry.
Welcome to the College After Show. We are on. So yeah, this is the car edition. We've tried to do this once before because we riffed really well in the car, but we had technical issues. So.
It was a really good episode too, which makes me kind of sad because we literally completely lost it.
Yep, it was gone forever.
Yeah, that's okay because now you can see me looking all cool over here in my Audrey Hepburn Italian sunglasses. I got them to go to Italy because Italy doesn't believe in small sunglasses apparently.
Whoops. And I accidentally rolled down the window. Trying to put my shoes on. Alright.
We were walking on the beach in Pensacola.
Which is actually has really good weather right now.
Yeah, it's like
freezing.
mid-60s. And by the way, this is the last weekend in January, so welcome to Florida. So we're basically... Initially, the plan for this weekend was we were going to be in Alabama doing a CrossFit competition for me, which I injured myself, decided not to do it just to be on the safe side because my quad's still not 100%, which every once in a while I do a movement that I can tell it's not 100%. Yesterday it was overhead squats. But we're all good, and so we decided instead, since we were going to be going out of town and driving anyways, to just kind of drive around Pensacola and explore, because Bull's lived here for years and still actually never been all the way down the beach.
Yeah, so Pensacola Beach is basically on a little island, and I think Fort Walton Beach is what is a little east of here, but I've never been there. We camped... I think the statute of limitations is up on this. No, we went to the beach very late at night, I'll say that. And when we were driving out there, I could see this, it's going to sound really cheesy, but I could see this glowing in the distance, right?
The aliens have landed.
Well, and it looked like a city, and I was like, I wonder what's over there. Because I've never been that far from Pensacola, but we just never went because everyone was tired and complaining, so it just never happened. But today we're going to figure that out. And I haven't gone for that reason and because I have a truck, which drinks gas like crazy. And we are in Kara's car right now, so we'll actually be able to make it there without spending a fortune.
He's not joking. It's really bad.
Yeah, I probably get about 12 miles to the gallon.
So, I don't know, we should have been recording from the moment we got in the car because we've already had some deep philosophical fitnessy discussions.
Yeah, so ask me the question that you asked me earlier and I'll kind of go through it. I have to hear the question to start my little spiel.
So here's kind of, I'm a design major. The actual setup to this conversation was me talking about how modern design comes from Asian influences and the fact that they believe the negative space is just as important as the positive space. And I'm just starting to switch up my training to get better at handstand push-ups and pressing to actually not do those pressing movements, but I'm switching over to dips. And he was talking about a philosophy he has kind of related to that.
Well, so along the strand of negative space and the idea of what's not there is just as important as what is there. There are things like, so if you're going to press, right, if you do what I call the powerlifter bench press, which is correct bench press, not bodybuilder style with your elbows out here, but elbows in tight, that's the same almost triangular position as handstand push-up or dips, just your arm rotates around the axis of your shoulder. And working that, I think you get a lot of bang for your buck because you increase your mobility a little bit just by going through that range of motion and forcing yourself to be and have good posture and position. You also increase your strength and almost kind of the middle of the road thing, bench press, you get a little more chest activation, overhead press or any sort of handstand push-up, you get more, tricep and shoulder. And the dip is really kind of like a middle ground for both of those, at least for me. I know some people, say it's one or the other. And so the fact that we're doing just dips and not dips and handstand push-ups and push-ups and bench press and overhead press and all this stuff, that other stuff not being in there is just as important because you don't overload yourself too much, you don't go too far. You're just like, all right, if we need more stimulus, sure, we'll add in that stuff, but we're not going to just pile more and more and more on top of it.
Because really what I've been realizing as I've been working on handstand push-ups, I've kind of hit a plateau as to where I've been stuck at about a 2-inch target really for the past month and a half. Everything else is totally fine. I can do multiple reps too, but 2 inches I'm just like completely stuck at. And I was doing dips the other day and realized that the same muscle was activating. And so the basic thought was my pull-up progression program is working really well as being able to add on a pull-up each week. And so transferring that over to dips might end up being really helpful. So.
Yeah. And then we started talking about something else. I forget what it was.
Mobility. This is kind of one of my favorite topics of the moment. It's really, really funny. Okay, so mobility is a huge thing right now. Ramwad's the new, like, cool kid on the block, right? Everybody...
It's a new hot girl at school.
All right, well, if we want to go there...
Talking about this, I probably should have better posture as I drive.
Oh, my goodness. But anyways, so, like, everybody who's anybody's doing Ramwad, right? And so that includes the people at my gym and one of my coaches. And so every Friday after our 9:30 class, because it's open gym, anybody who wants to stay, we just throw on a Ramwad and kind of go. So I've kind of decided that to give an intelligent spiel about this, I think I'm going to do the 14-day free trial. I might get him to do it with you. And then on Valentine's Day, 2 weeks from now, I can kind of report back on my ideas. But in doing one of those sessions, there's all these birds over here. That's weird. Anyways, sorry.
There was a black painted school bus back there. I don't know what that was about.
Trippy.
Anyways.
Anywho, random moments. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So we were doing the Ramwad as a group, and one of the girls that was working out with us, she's new to CrossFit, about 2 months, but she is a yoga instructor. She's been doing yoga for years, and she's super, super flexible. And while doing Ramwad, I started talking about to the coach about Kelly Starrett, and, you know, I try to do that fairly often with getting my mobility right and hammering out knots, which are ever present. And she started talking about the first time she ever saw somebody doing mobility using like barbells and tools, she was like horrified, because yoga is kind of just like you let yourself loosen up naturally. Here's the thing, I've been lifting weights for long enough that I am so tight that if I waited for my body to loosen up naturally, we're talking like 3-4 years down the road.
Yeah, here's the thing, and this is my little spiel that I gave earlier, is there's a difference between flexibility and mobility. So if you go back and look at Kelly's original talk with CrossFit on presenting his kind of thinking and his whole thing, he's like, stretching is dead. Stretching is for losers. We're not going to stretch. Because, so let's look at this. He's got this idea, which I love, which is everything should scale up and down, right? It should work for the 1,000-pound squatter. What is this idiot doing?
Well, there's not a sidewalk. He kind of has to bicycle in the middle of the road. Although, that is a pet peeve of mine. Not that I have a problem with people bicycling. I'm just always, like, scared I'm going to hit them.
Yeah. Anyways. There's a sidewalk. It's right there.
Oh,
anyways.
So there is.
And it's wide enough for people and bikes. And there's a guy riding a bike on it. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't be in the middle of the road. He was directly in the middle of the road.
Okay, continue on to the relevant stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, he was saying stretching's dead, stretching's for losers, right? Because mobility isn't just flexibility. Mobility is your positional capacity of your range of motion. So can you get in all the positions and shapes that joint allows, right? Can you go back as far? Can you go overhead? Can you go in? Can you go out? With your shoulder per se, or your hip, which is basically kind of the same thing, just backwards. It really is. It's really funny. But there's that range of motion. Then there's the second piece of mobility, which is motor control. So first, can we put you in these shapes and you be fine? The second is, can you get in that shape by yourself to begin with and transition from a stable position to a stable position? So for instance, standing stable, stacked in a good way, embraced with a bar on your back for a back squat, then transition smoothly into another stable position at the bottom, be stable there, and then transition back up. So if you don't have the motor control, you just have flexibility, you don't have mobility. And that's a big distinction people miss. Like something like Ramwad, that's great. But part of Kelly's thinking and the design of most of his mobility stuff is you've got the flexibility, but then also you're in a position that forces you to learn motor control, like the hip capsule stretch, right? It's opening up your hip capsule, you're hitting a little hamstring, you can let your leg go out a little bit further to, get that a little harder, hit that a little harder. But then also, you are in a similar position and you have to learn the motor control of where your leg needs to be, where your foot needs to be, and all that. Just doing something like ROMWOD, you're missing out on that positional motor control.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only getting half of it. So you just get more bang for your buck. The problem is, though, a lot of people want the lazy way, and that's fine. Like, I like to take the lazy way a lot. But when it's something like this, Kelly, there's a video where he is talking about, someone asked him a question, what are like the 5 or 10 mobility drills he would have you do? Nothing else, no concept. And he opens up the video a little like, I'll say this stuff, but I really don't like not having the concept behind it, because you're meant to understand what you're doing and what's going on, so you can do the informed freestyling and really just, it's almost a mass improvement of the system, kind of like Westside Barbell, where he puts it out there, then people play with it and tweak it, and are like, okay, well, instead of, 12 sets of 3 reps, let's do 14 sets of 2 reps, and just tweak it a little bit and find the best way to do it. So that's my kind of spiel on that. Is ROMWOD is fine, but you're leaving a lot on the table.
I think, if nothing else, it's a good starting block if you're really unsure about what to do, or if you're really bad about making time to mobilize. And then at least, something's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's good. Like, it's cool and it's fun and it's the thing to do. So people are more likely to settle down and do it, because a lot of CrossFitters have this mentality of the, go, 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 go. If you have a mobility day at your gym, people are going to be like, what? That's weak sauce. Come on now. But they don't see the full, picture of it. They just see what I call CrossFit 1.0, which is, 3, 2, 1, go get your head bashed in. 3, 2, 1, I don't care if you're hurt, I don't care if you're tight, I don't care if this tears, just go, go, go. That's CrossFit, what I call CrossFit 1.0. CrossFit 2.0 is being a little smarter with it, stuff like when John Wellborn started throwing out dedicated strength work in the CrossFit community, all of a sudden everyone did it. When Kelly started putting out mobility stuff, all of a sudden you've got all these different mobility things popping up left and right. That's CrossFit 2.0, but I'm afraid we're kind of sliding back to 1.0.
And the result of that is basically, if you think about any entity that's just experienced this large growth of popularity and population, I guess it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
That just does kind of tend to happen as the newer people come in. They don't have that understanding. The larger the group, the harder it can be to kind of translate the concepts. And so the newer people, what I've noticed a lot of, at least in my gym, they're watching the top dogs. And instead of realizing all the works that went into that, they're just trying to imitate without the background and knowledge of why or what they're imitating. And what happens is a lot of half reps and skipping reps and, all these things, just trying to be the fastest and the best. And they're missing out on so much of the journey. And the journey is the important thing. The thing that I've really realized recently is that it's completely okay if a year down the road I still don't have a muscle up, but I have the strength there. So whenever I do decide to try and figure it out, it's probably going to come pretty fast. Because I was watching one of the girls in my gym, and heaven love her, she's one of my favorite people ever. She's so, so sweet. And she's strong too. However, she's one of the people that, is trying to skip too many steps in between, especially on things like, people try to get to the kipping pull-ups and muscle ups way too fast without regards to the steps in the middle. And especially any kind of muscle up, you see people use progression from like ring rows to pull-ups and pull-ups work to chest to bar, and then all of a sudden you don't even have a chest to bar and you're just looking at muscle up rings like, I'm gonna try this, and just go for it with no pretense. And that's basically what was happening. So she has like 4 people around her as she's trying to figure out a bar muscle up when she can barely get kipping pull-ups. And they're trying to give her all these hints, like, don't wrap your thumb around the bar and widen out your arm so you have a shorter range of motion, which might work in a chest-to-bar, but if you're trying to do the dip portion in a bar muscle-up, that's not the best. And so she does all this stuff, and I'm sorry, once again, heaven love her, but it was like the worst looking kip I've ever seen, and to barely get my chin over the bar and so far away from the bar. She's like, I think I was like almost there, and I'm like,
Well, here, if you look at something like Sommers, a lot of people might not like Sommers. He had that interview on Barbell Shrug
which is one of my favorite episodes, in all honesty.
Was a little critical of CrossFit.
It was very critical.
But he made some good points. He was talking about if you keep piling crap on crap, you just have a pile of crap. Mm-hmm. And his main thing with that, I believe, was the muscle ups where guys are locking out in this position, kind of internally rotated, palm facing them, instead of externally rotating, and all that. And Mike Bledsoe made a comment about how he had tried doing it, the gymnastics way, and externally rotating, turning out at the top, and he felt like his chest was going to pop off. Well, that's because it's a more, muscularly demanding position to be in, but it's going to train you to move on to the next step. So more, going outside, getting a little wider, closer to an iron cross type thing, which I hear a lot of people trying to, transition from muscle-ups to that. And you've got to have that quality of movement built in first. Or else you're just going to be stagnant. You're like, cool, I can do muscle-ups all the time. All right, but you've been doing muscle-ups for 5 years. And it took you 1 year to get them. Where's this going? And the other thing I just thought of is, if you look at Sommers' progressions for gymnastics bodies, in that interview he talks about people who can't do pull-ups, right? And he's got them on ring rows. And they try to do pull-ups, and they can do strict pull-ups very well. It's just going great, but even though they're at the point where they could do strict pull-ups, they could do 5-10 strict pull-ups, they're not allowed to move on yet. Because they're not ready. Even though you can do them, so let's say you can just now do strict pull-ups, or you just got your first muscle-up. That doesn't mean all of a sudden you're someone who does muscle-ups in a workout.
Right.
You've got to be proficient at the lower thing before you move on to the higher thing. So even if you can do 5 strict pull-ups on his ring row program, that's great. You're still doing ring rows because he wants you to be able to be at like 10, 15 before you move on.
And here's the other thing that people don't really think about and realize when they try to move on too quickly. And by the way, sidebar, biggest pet peeve ever is seeing people kip with a doggone band. If you're trying to kip with a band doing a pull-up, you shouldn't be doing the pull-up.
I agree. I've never seen that, but
I see people try it in my gym because they want to get kipping pull-ups and not have to use that band so they can get the RX so bad. And to me, it's not important. To me, it's more important. It's like the biggest takeaway I took from that episode was how important it is to be able to do things strict, because another thing it talked about is how much per pound force you are putting on your shoulders and your arms as soon as you move on to kipping. Butterfly is even more, and muscle-up is even more. So you really need to be strong enough to do X amount more or start doing weighted pull-ups, all of that before you get too eager to move on. You don't want to hurt yourself. So being able to do strict anything, it's why anytime we're in the gym, if it is calling for pull-ups, yes, I can do kipping pull-ups. I did kipping pull-ups in the workout yesterday because the open's right around the corner. I'm trying to train that back up for the purpose of competition. But as soon as that's over, I'm going back to strict. Even if I have to use a band, even if it's the lightest band there, I don't care. The thing is, ego has to go out the door in CrossFit. You hear people say that, but people forget that so easily when it comes to wanting to get that RX or...
Well, yeah, I think you got to have a switch for your ego. Like when you're training and you're trying to get better, turn it off. But when it's time to go and you're in a competition, switch it back on.
Yeah.
That's going to help you.
I agree with that. So like he kind of mentioned, there's a difference between skill training and like how you're training for a competition, like up to a competition. You have to consider this. You don't want to do kipping pull-ups every single day. That's not going to train the strength in the same way. So... Right? Am I correct in saying that?
It could, but you're not going to get as much bang for your buck. So let's say you're doing 10 kipping pull-ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you can't do a lot of strict pull-ups, chances are your stability in your upper back is not very good, okay? Chances are that's the case. And chances are so if you're using momentum, you're not actually pulling as much weight. So it's kind of the difference between doing regular pull-ups and weighted pull-ups when you go from kipping to strict. So you're going to get more bang for your buck by doing strict.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could get stronger doing kipping, but you'd have to do a lot more. And like she said, when you drop, especially if you don't have good posture, which probably if you can't do a lot of regular pull-ups you don't, then you're putting a lot of excess stress, and it's not as efficient for getting better as a strict pull-up.
Right. So that's just my kind of thing. And the funny thing with me is I can see a butterfly pull-up and I understand the mechanics perfectly. Kipping, I'm still over here going, how on earth does this work? So yesterday's workout was a partner workout, and it was just a 20-minute AMRAP, and it involved 30 pull-ups, and so we split them into sets of 5. And I could do all 5 on...
I see it? Okay.
Oh, my word. He found the town. And so we split in sets of 5, and despite the fact that I'm telling the truth here,
Seriously?
I have not done kipping pull-ups since last year's Open. I was able to do 5 kipping pull-ups unbroken for every single set. But I would hold it at the top before going back, because if I tried to like immediately push back down, I would lose form and I get so loosey-goosey, I'd lose my kip anyways, or it just wouldn't be pretty and it wouldn't feel good, all this stuff. So I would hold myself at the top and
organize
be a little
yourself
slower,
and then go.
which my partner was kind of making fun of me for. He's like, you're just pretty much doing like a negative. I'm like, yeah, but that means that I'm enforcing the movement pattern and keeping myself tight.
You've got to have a culture of quality, not a culture of numbers. If any of y'all saw that Clemson bench press video.
Oh gosh, if you haven't, look it up.
Yeah, it's Clemson. He claimed it was like a 460 pound bench press. So here's what happened. For those of you who haven't seen it, you can go watch it. Even if I explain it, it's worth the entertainment.
I'll try to post it on the Facebook page, so follow us.
It's a 2-board bench press. So if you know anything about West Side, they vary stuff. So you'll go 1 board, or I think it's a 1-inch board. So you, instead of a regular bench press, you do a board press, kind of like doing a pause squat or a tempo squat, something like that. So they put this board under. It's 460. They take it out. Really small guy for holding 640. He's kind of shaking. He drops it on himself. Picks it up, bounces it off the board, and then the partner basically upright rows it up. And they jump up and celebrate like he just got it. Like the whole gym's going nuts. Everyone's jumping up and down, like congratulating him. And that's a numbers culture. Like,
he like nearly killed himself, I swear.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't die. He's going to step out on the field and get monstered by some really, really strong dude. He's going to be like, but I was this strong. No, you weren't. Just because your partner can deadlift 640 doesn't mean you can bench press 640. But that's the thing. That's a numbers culture. That's like, hey, I hit the RX button today. Hey, I am this place on the leaderboard in the gym. Instead of, hey, I moved as well as I could, and I ingrained that movement pattern, and I learned and I got better. Because I guarantee you, okay, let's say he can bench that, but he benches with this weird posture, and it's never going to work on the field. Super overextended in the low back. You're supposed to arch in the upper back more than the low back in super heavy benches. But let's say he does that super broken posture. He's just going to get bent over like that and folded over and crushed in a game by someone who maybe doesn't bench press as much, but he has command of his posture. That is going to be the guy who wins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like, all right, do you want to be that CrossFitter who, yeah, I can do all these crappy pull-ups or do, these muscle-ups or this X weight or whatever, but I'm broken the next day? Or if I have to move on to another movement in a longer workout, I can't do it? Or do you want to be the guy who's like, yeah, I'm fine. Just go again.
Yeah. I think that's part of the transition from being a newer baby CrossFitter 1.0 to 2.0, when you start to understand the stimulus that's the coaches are trying to get from you in each workout, understand your body and how it responds, your goals and how to best reach them, and stop caring so much about how much weight you pull, if you're able to hit RX, if you're the top on the leaderboard. Like, if you're totally okay with being the absolute last name on the leaderboard, but you know that you responded correctly stimulus-wise, you chose the correct weights for you that day, and you moved as best you could for how your body's feeling and what you're training, you know, you've progressed to a better position, in my opinion.
I agree. It's kind of like your goal should be to lift X weight. It should be to be this place in your gym. But you shouldn't sacrifice your values. Like, you know, if you want to increase your place in your standing in life, right? Financially, socially, whatever. You're not going to go out and assassinate someone to do that, right? That's not in line with your values. You're not going to go steal something from someone else to get ahead because it's not in line with your values. Well, just because your goal is to lift X weight or to be at this place, you're not going to sacrifice your values of your posture and of your control and of smart progression, you know?
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put that.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good way to round out the episode, and then we can turn around eventually and enjoy the scenery, which is beautiful, by the way.
That house is crazy and awesome. I love that. It's like a spaceship landed on a shed.
I've seen things like that before on like Extreme Homes on HGTV.
See, this is the only reason I want to live by a beach, because you've got some really cool looking houses.
You do, and I would like to design all of them.
Except this place floods really easily.
Just kidding. I really prefer commercial design. More random facts about me. You've been getting a lot of those if you've actually been watching any of my vlogs.
Anyways, we are going to turn around somewhere.
Probably in someone's driveway.
Probably. But we will see y'all later.
How do I turn this off?
Take the mouse and hit the red button.
Okay. Oh yeah, and follow everything, by the way.
Yes,
so.
all of it. Do it.
All right, do it now. Okay, bye.